Hello and welcome to the weekly commodity market update. I'm Brownfield's Will Robinson, joined as always by the University of Missouri's Ben Brown. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Will. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's a little bit rainy out in Western Ohio this morning, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, so can't complain too much, right?
You probably got that rain we got yesterday.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was on the phone with some people back home, and it's like, oh, are you getting this? It's like, no, it's clear skies for me right now, and it's raining here. I'm like, oh, are you getting this? It's like, no, it looks pretty clear out here now. So it's just that kind of secondhand relationship, I guess there. So
Now tell me, this is like Christmas for Buckeye fans, I think. The start of college football season. I don't know if there's a bigger time out there for them.
Well, no, yeah, it's been a lot of conversations. So I've learned a lot of things so far. First off, Notre Dame just doesn't have what it takes. They don't have a good football program, from what I can gather.
Yeah, you got just a small game coming up this weekend to
Yeah,
kick off
yeah,
the
and then
season.
number two, we don't talk about the team up north. So those
That's
are
right.
two valuable lessons I've learned so far. So
Well, good. You're
uh,
learning. You're learning.
exactly. So when it comes to markets, Ben,
Oh
what
yeah, what we're supposed
adjustments?
to talk about.
Yeah, what we're supposed to talk about. So what adjustments did we really see coming into this week?
Yeah, so largely summary, up for grain crops, down for oil seeds. That's kind of the theme across the board here. When we look at corn for September, up 39 cents to 672. New crop corn in December up 42 cents to 671. Those oil seeds again, September soybeans down 32 cents to 14.95. New crop soybeans in November down 24 cents to 14.11. Those different soybean components, soybean oil was up a penny and a third to 70 cents flat. Soybean meal was up $6.30 per short ton to 466.8. The old crop wheat for September up 37 cents to $8.07. And then new crop wheat in July up 37 cents to 8.53.
What kind of drivers and highlights do we see that really led us there?
Yeah, so we'll just kind of go through some of the normal ones, as we didn't have a ton of new stuff, but U.S. weekly ethanol production was up ever so slightly on the week to roughly 290 million gallons. That used about 98 million bushels of corn. Export sales reports were delayed this week, I guess is how you would put it, as USDA's new export sales platform is experiencing technical difficulties. Open interest futures and options contracts for Chicago corn, soybeans, and wheat all increased on the week. 2.5% for corn, 4.5% for soybeans. Managed money traders built futures and options positions in all three crops, up 1,000 positions in wheat, up 28,000 positions in corn, and up 5,000 positions in beans. Last week's Pro Farmer Tour, the U.S. corn and soybean crop estimated U.S. corn to average a surprising 168.1 bushels per acre. That's well below USDA's August 1st estimate of 175.4 bushels per acre. Caught the trade a little bit in the surprise. The two are also estimated U.S. soybean yields at 51.7 bushels per acre, nearly in line with USDA's estimate. There's just a few days left in the 2021-2022 marketing year for corn and soybeans and grain sorghum. U.S. export inspections for the week ending August 25th were down across the board for corn, soybeans, grain sorghum, and wheat. Soybeans were particularly low, falling below all pre-report expectations. The National Corn Conditions Rating fell 1%, good to excellent on the condition score, to 55% last week compared to a historical average of 61%. 8% of the crop was deemed mature. And then national soybean good to excellence ratings were steady this week at 57% compared to a 3-year average of 61%. And then the shining star of this cropping season, I would say, spring wheat conditions continue to be stellar, up 4% week over week to 68% good to excellent. Compared to 67% 3-year average.
Yeah, you as a Western boy, I know how much you love talking about wheat. It always makes you happy, right?
Well, I don't know if those of us that grow winter wheat are all excited to see the spring wheat crop doing so well, but yeah, it is good that we have wheat, especially given the tightness in the feed grain market across the world. It's nice to have some wheat.
So maybe a little bit of relief coming there. So, but looking at some global issues and topics that we're going to tackle today, the European natural gas market, first off, a lot of turmoil there. Really, how is that impacting us day to day, and how's that impacting U.S. farmers?
Yeah, good question. We're not only do I want to talk about farmers, I also want to talk about consumers here during kind of this conversation because I think it's important to realize the broad implications this has. Natural gas in Europe continues to push higher, setting records. Last Friday, it topped $100 US dollars per unit of conversion, which is an MMBTU. Don't ask me to explain what that is, but that's the metric, if you will, for the first time in history, and that was up 32.5% in a single week, largest ever increase in a single week. That was on news that Russia was going to shut down a main pipeline into Germany. Of course, the European Union has been trying to conserve energy now, so they have enough for the winter months. But it's certainly caused natural gas prices to rise. That's hitting both their industrial sector very hard, as well as households that need natural gas to power different components now, especially heating in the winter, but now as well are facing higher prices. But then when you look at the industry side, we've talked about how ethanol production in Europe right now is just not profitable with these high natural gas prices. Also, their shortage of corn, right? Especially France continues to see a reduction in their corn crop. So the inputs of ethanol have just gotten so high that Europe isn't able or hasn't been producing ethanol. I think that does open up the opportunity for U.S. ethanol producers and U.S. To export more ethanol into that market as an energy source. But that is one area where it is impacting their economy. The second area that impacts us negatively here in the United States is fertilizer production is being curtailed. Current estimates are about 70% of European fertilizer capacity is now offline. Certainly, that is going to cause some issues when we get around to the bigger demand cycle or the bigger demand season for fertilizer products, and so very important that we get that fertilizer production back online as we get ready to hit some of this peak demand season. Talk about consumers for just a second here, if you will. So one of the byproducts for both fertilizer and ethanol is food grade CO2. It goes through a very sanitary process that produces a food grade CO2 that we use in a lot of products. Probably there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. I love reading the Wall Street Journal. I love reading Brownfield, so don't worry, Will. But I love reading I read the Wall Street Journal just about every day, and along with Brownfield. But there was a fantastic article in the Wall Street Journal this weekend talking about this issue, and it's something I've been watching too. Is the shortage of CO2 hitting U.S. consumers in ways that we wouldn't anticipate supply chains to be hit? Probably one of the biggest ways is if you don't have enough food grade CO2, all of a sudden the pop and beer industries no longer have enough CO2 to produce the product, and they're having to curtail production. So if you think we've got angry farmers now, wait till you take their Bush Light away from them, or whatever their product of choice is, I guess, if you will. But so that's one issue. The second thing is a lot of our livestock processors depend on food grade CO2 as part of the processing process, and so that's a way that this food grade CO2 is really starting to become a problem.
So really, that's the impacts on the I guess consumer level and how that can come back into play in U.S. ag. So, well, one thing I would like to bring back up is your mention on maybe the producer level. So, talking about increasing the potential to export ethanol into the European market. Generally, when we talk about ethanol exports and a lot of that, we talk about places like Mexico and down into South America and places like that. So, how much of a window is being opened right now to export into places like Europe?
Yeah, so our biggest markets, as you mentioned, are typically Canada and South America, along with Mexico. Those are big markets. However, I think we've got an opportunity here to really expand into some of these markets that the European Union has largely dominated. So along with Brazil, but like you look at the European Union and where their excess ethanol production has gone into, well, mainly other European countries because of the free trade, right? Like they have fewer trade limitations amongst themselves as an economic bloc. But certainly, not only are they having trouble exporting, but they're having trouble meeting their own domestic needs. So I think this is an opportunity, relatively short window, right? Eventually, you would expect this ethanol production over there to come back online. and that they would continue to meet their own needs. But I think we have the ability to help serve some of these markets that have really grown in ethanol demand or ethanol, consumption as a result that they produced it, but also some of their export markets. So let me explain a little bit better. I've kind of been rambling. Think about if the United States, for some reason, let's just, hypothetically, the United States wasn't able to produce ethanol, right? Our domestic market here in the United States has kind of ingrained ethanol at a 10% blend in a lot of places around the country. If we weren't able to produce ethanol, other international producers would see an opportunity to get into the U.S. market for a period of time, because the consumers are kind of expecting it. It's ingrained in our market, and our producers just aren't able to get there. That's not the case, but that's exactly what's happening over there. Is we have the opportunity to get into a market that we, just haven't had because there hasn't been a need, but now there is.
So I don't want to spend the whole time looking outward. Also some domestic factors here. Some maybe small on the surface was that USDA wasn't able to report export sales because of a systematic failure there. Did the market have any reaction to that little gaffe?
So not only did it not work, it put out false numbers. And I think in our day of electronic trading, to where algorithms and computers look at numbers and then start trading based on that until the human intervention comes into the market. We had a little bit of that last Thursday. USDA was trying out a new platform. We were supposed to be switching to a new platform. The new platform, got mixed around with some stuff, and we saw some wonky numbers, some very high wheat numbers, wheat exports, for instance, and the trade instantly started trading that. But then human intervention came in and said, okay, this is unrealistic. Clearly there's a mistake somewhere. USDA's taken that down. They're working on their new platform, but we still don't have numbers for last week as well. And so a little bit of a dark hole as well, but certainly a little bit of a mess up. And I don't want to pick on USDA too much. I don't tend to do that because they do a lot of really good work, but certainly the export sales platform last week. So for those of you that watched the market, if you saw some weird things happen last Thursday morning, that's likely what caused it.
So and then does that have any secondary or greater impact because it was right at the shift between the old and the new marketing year, or is that just par for the course?
I think we'll be fine. I think we'll get this figured out. We'll go back and everything will be fine. And I just want to clarify. I think for most producers and most grain traders, they probably didn't know anything because the export window or the export sales report comes out before our trade opens here in the United States, before the markets open here in the United States. So a lot of this was worked out before the U.S. markets opened. It was just kind of some of those overnight markets and international markets that were kind of initially impacted. So just kind of a little bit of a glitch, but I think we'll be all right.
All right. Well, there's several more topics I'd like to get to, but I think we're running a little bit out of time here. So moving forward, what should traders really be watching? What markets coming up, and what potential market movers?
Yeah, well, college football, of course. That has big implications for markets. No, I kid. So we got ethanol coming out. The last ethanol report of the marketing year comes out Wednesday morning at 9:30. Thursday is kind of an interesting day. So the beginning of both September, but also the beginning of a new marketing year. However, the reports are for July. And so we have grain crushing giving us an idea of how much corn was crushed for different components. Fat and oilseed crushing also for July comes out Thursday afternoon. And then Friday, that CFTC commitment of traders data, where we get open interest and managed money accounts. That comes out Friday afternoon.
All right, so definitely some good things to watch there. If viewers and listeners, if you'd like to learn more or maybe about us or on the livestock side, you can check that out at brownfieldagnews.com and listen in to Megan Grebner and Scott Brown talking about the livestock markets. For all things commodity markets, again, just stay tuned right here with Ben and I. So we thank you for your time today. I'm Will Robinson on Brownfield.